Say the words, "The Big Bang," out loud, and I'll bet the picture in your head matches mine. A bomb, somewhere out in the black. One blinding point, then everything flung outward into the empty dark. A fireball hurled across the void. That's the postcard. And almost every piece of it is wrong, because there was no black for it to go off in, no outside to fly into, no single spot where it struck. And yet somehow I'm still standing in the middle of it. Untangle that for me.
I will, and I'll enjoy every minute of taking that postcard apart, because it's the most beautiful wrong picture in all of science. But we don't start with the bomb. We start where you left off last time, at the top of the stairs, thoroughly unsettled. You came back down to me with a fact in your pocket. Tell me what it was.
That everything's running away from everything. Every galaxy we can see is fleeing, and the far one's fleeing fastest. And it isn't them barreling through space, it's the space between them, swelling, stretching, carrying them apart like raisins in a rising loaf. No galaxy at the center of it, no edge to it, just everything, quietly getting farther from everything else all the time.
The whole of it in one breath. Space itself swelling. Not things moving through space, but space growing between the things. Hold that word, swelling, especially tight tonight, because we're about to do the most audacious thing anyone in this science ever does with it. We're going to run it backward.
Backward, as in, take the film of the whole expanding universe and play the reel in reverse.
The film of the entire universe. Every galaxy, every stretch of growing space, the whole show, and we simply run the reel the other way. If everything is flying apart now, then yesterday it all sat a touch closer together. And the day before, closer still. Wind the reel back far enough
And everything comes crowding home. All right, I can see the shape of that. But hang on, that's a colossal thing to just help yourself to. Run the whole universe backward. How do you even know it plays in reverse? How do you know it's not some other story entirely, going the other way?
A fair place to plant your heels. And the honest answer is, because the machinery says so. Remember, an earlier course of ours taught the engine under all this. The equations Einstein handed us, the ones that flatly refuse to let a universe sit still. That same engine runs just as happily backward as forward, pointed at the past, and it doesn't shrug and hand you a mystery. It hands you a very definite yesterday.
So the same rules that say it must be growing also say if I flip them round, it must have been smaller and closer. One knob. Turn it one way, you get the expansion. Turn it the other, you get the rewind.
One knob, and the past falls out of it. That's the license. We're not spinning a tale about the beginning. We're reading the beginning off the very same law that governs right now, tonight, this room. So, let's actually turn the knob and go. We wind the reel back, the galaxies come crowding in toward each other, the growing space ungrows. And something starts to happen that isn't only about crowding. Guess what?
Well, if I'm cramming everything closer together, it gets denser. More stuff in less room. That much is just tidying a cupboard. Shove the clutter together and there's more of it per shelf.
Denser, exactly. And that's the easy half. But there's a second thing riding along with it, and it's the half that turns a tidy cupboard into a furnace. Squeeze the universe and it doesn't only get thicker, it gets hotter.
Hotter? Just from the squeezing? Now that I want to argue with. Why on earth would shoving things closer together make them hot? Crowding a cupboard doesn't warm the jam.
Because you felt it do exactly that, with your own two hands. Ever pumped up a bicycle tire? Really worked the pump, fast, till your arm ached. Then put your palm flat on the barrel of the pump afterward.
It's warm. The pump gets warm. Genuinely hot sometimes. I always chalk that up to friction, mind you, the piston rubbing up and down inside.
A little of it is friction, but most of it is the air itself. You're taking a good lungful of air and squashing it down into a tiny space, and squeezed air gets hot, hot enough to feel through the metal. Now do the exact opposite. Take a can of spray, any aerosol, hold the button down for a good while, and then touch the nozzle.
Cold. Goes properly cold, ices right up sometimes. Because the stuff's rushing out and spreading, isn't it? Expanding into the room.
Expanding gas cools, squeezed gas heats. That's not some grand cosmic law. It's a kitchen law. It's on your bicycle pump and your spray can and your fridge. Now hand that little law to the whole universe. The universe expanding is the entire contents of everything doing the spray can trick at once, spreading, thinning and cooling for billions of years on end.
So run that backward, unspread it, cram it all in. And I've stopped running the spray can and started running the bicycle pump. On the whole universe, it heats. The deeper into the past I wind the reel, the hotter the entire works gets.
The deeper you wind, the hotter it blazes. And here's the piece I love best, because it ties straight back to your rising loaf from last week. The light from the far galaxies came in reddened, you told me. Stretched, you said, by the growing space it had to cross to reach you.
Right, the space swelled while the light was still in flight, so the light's own waves got dragged out longer, and longer waves mean redder colour. Stretched light, cooler colour. That was the whole clue that things were expanding.
Stretched light, cooler light. Now run the reel back on it. Unstretch that light. The waves crowd shorter, and shorter means bluer, means fiercer, means hotter. The very same stretching that reddens and cools the universe going forward is what blazes and heats it going backward. It's all one single motion, cooling as it grows, and rewound, heating as it shrinks.
So the redshift I was so pleased with myself for last week isn't only a clue that things are flying apart, it's a thermometer. Read how much the light's been stretched, and I'm reading how much the whole of space has cooled since it set out.
A thermometer for all of space at once. And it only ever points one way as you travel back. Up. Warmer. Thicker. Warmer. Thicker. So let's not dawdle in the merely toasty. Let's wind the reel back hard, past anything you'd call comfortable, and ask what the universe is actually like when it's not just warm, but ferociously unmanageably hot.
Before we go charging back there, though, one honest question. Is this a story we tell ourselves or a thing we can actually check? Because wind the whole universe back into a furnace sounds an awful lot like the kind of tale that can't ever be caught out.
The best question you could ask, and I won't dodge it. It could be checked, and it has been, and it's how we know we're not just storytelling. A universe that was once a furnace should have left fingerprints lying about the place. Ash, if you like. In the coming weeks, we're going to go hunting for those fingerprints, one by one, and hold them up to the light.
What sort of ash does a whole universe furnace leave behind?
Two kinds, and both are still here. There's a glow it should have left, a faint afterlight soaked into the whole sky, which is where we're headed next time. And there's a recipe, the particular blend of the lightest stuff a hot young universe cooked, which will weigh out the week after. Tonight, though, the point is simpler than either. It isn't that we're free to imagine a hot beginning, it's that the law leaves us no choice. Run it back, and it forces the furnace on you.
The law forces it. All right, that I'll walk into. So, take me into the furnace. How hot are we talking? Hot like an oven? Hot like the middle of the sun?
Keep going past both, and don't slow down. Wind back far enough, and the whole of space, every last corner of it, is hotter than the heart of any star. And at that heat, something breaks that you and I lean on every second of our lives without a flicker of thought. Matter itself stops being able to hold together.
Hold on. Matter stops holding together? What does that even mean? A rock is a rock. It doesn't come apart at the seams just because you've made it hot.
A rock doesn't, at the temperatures you tend to meet a rock. But heat, when you get right down to it, is just violence. The hotter a thing is, the more furiously its bits are jostling and slamming into one another. Warm a rock enough and it melts. The bits break their grip and start to flow. Hotter still, and it boils away to a gas. The bits fly apart entirely, off on their own. And here's what most people never hear. That's not even the bottom rung.
There's a rung below gas? I always thought a gas was about as broken down and every bit for itself as stuff could possibly get.
One more rung down, and it's the one that matters. Every atom is a tiny nucleus with a cloud of electrons around it. That cloud is what makes the atom the tidy, well-behaved thing you know. Heat it fiercely enough, though, and the jostling turns so savage that the electrons get torn clean off. The atom simply can't stay assembled. What you're left with is a glowing soup of loose nuclei and loose electrons, tearing about free. And that soup has its own name. It's a plasma.
So wind the universe back far enough, and every atom that would ever go on to be a rock, or a raisin, or a fingernail, or a person, every last one of them is ripped apart into this glowing soup.
Every last one. And not melted down in a furnace somewhere off in the distance. Everything, everywhere. The whole of space brim full of that fierce, glowing plasma at the very same time. There's a grand old word for it, and for once, the grand old word is honest. The fireball. The whole young universe as one seamless fireball.
And a fireball glows. If it's that hot, it isn't dark in there. It's blindingly, screamingly bright. Wall to wall to wall.
Blinding, in every direction you could turn your head, with nowhere dark to rest your eye. Because there is no outside the fire to look toward. The fire is the whole of everything there is. That's your primeval fireball. Not a bright thing sitting in the dark, but a brightness that is all there is, packed into every scrap of space edge to edge. If it even has an edge, which is a thing we're going to have to talk about.
That's a hard picture to actually hold in the hand. Let me try to make it real for a second. This room, this chair I'm parked in right now. You're honestly telling me that the very stuff of it.
Point at a spot. Any spot at all. The empty air just by your hand. Go on, pick one.
All right, there. That patch of ordinary empty air, arm's length out in front of my nose.
That spot, that exact spot, no other, was once part of the fireball. The stuff that's drifting there as cool, quiet air tonight was, long ago, a knot of that blazing plasma. And so was the spot behind your head. And so was the spot on the far side of the farthest galaxy you or anyone will ever photograph. Every here that exists anywhere was a there in the fire. All of them. All at the same instant.
So there isn't a place the fireball happened to be. The fireball was the place. Every place. It didn't sit somewhere. It was the somewhere.
Now you're standing right on the lip of the thing the postcard gets most badly wrong. Say that again, slowly, out loud, because you just said the whole secret without noticing you'd said it.
The fireball wasn't in a place. It was every place. There wasn't one spot where it happened. It happened at all the spots at once. There's no address for it. The address is everywhere.
That's it. That's the exact crack the whole misunderstanding falls through. So let's take your postcard down off the shelf and watch it come apart in our hands, honestly, piece by piece. A bomb goes off. Tell me the 3 things every bomb you've ever seen has got.
Well, it's got a spot where it goes off, a place it starts from, ground zero, the center of the whole business.
1. A center. What else has it got?
It's got an edge. The blast races outward as a front. There's the part that's already gone up, and the calm part just ahead that hasn't yet. a boundary, tearing outward through the calm.
2. An edge, a front racing out. And the third, the one so obvious you'll very nearly walk straight past it.
It's got an outside, a room, the air, the dark, the space all around that the blast flies out into. It goes off in somewhere. There's a stage it happens on.
A center, an edge, and an outside to fly into. 3 things every explosion you have ever witnessed has got, without exception. And the Big Bang has not one of the 3. Not a single one of them.
None of the 3? Oh, come off it. It must at least have a center. Everything's flying apart, so it's flying apart from somewhere. Point me at the somewhere. Where's the middle of it all? Where did the thing go off?
There it is. I knew you'd lunge for the middle. Everyone does. I did myself. So let's go looking for it, properly, together, and watch exactly what happens when we try. Back to your rising loaf. An enormous loaf of raisin bread in the oven, the dough swelling, every raisin drifting slowly away from every other raisin. Which one is the center they're all fleeing from?
The one in the very middle of the loaf, surely.
Is it though? Sit yourself on any raisin you fancy, anyone at all. Now look about you. What do you actually see?
I see. All the other raisins drifting away from me, whichever one I've sat on, because the dough's swelling everywhere between every pair of them at once. So from every single raisin's seat, it looks for all the world like everyone else is fleeing you, and you're the one still point in the whole loaf. Every raisin's convinced it's the center.
Every raisin is convinced it's the center, which is precisely exactly the same as saying that not one of them is. There's no seat in that whole loaf that's the true middle of the fleeing. The pattern looks identical from every raisin in the bread. And that's no trick of the baking. That is how our universe honestly is. Every galaxy sees all the others rushing away from it. Every astronomer would swear they sat at the center, and each would be equally right and equally wrong.
Which is why our own sky fools us, I suppose. Everything really does look like it's fleeing us on all sides, so it's the most natural thing in the world to feel we're parked at the middle of creation.
The most natural thing in the world, and the feeling is real, the observation is real, everything genuinely does flee us on all sides. It's the conclusion that's the trap. It isn't evidence that we're the special still point. It's evidence there's no special still point to be, because that very same view is waiting on every raisin in the loaf.
But a real loaf does have a middle. I can hunt down the centermost raisin of an actual loaf of bread. There's some raisin sitting nearest the geometric middle of the thing.
Because a loaf in an oven has a crust, it has an edge, and a middle only makes sense measured in from that edge. So now do the hard thing. Take the crust away. Imagine the dough simply doesn't stop. It runs on, raisins and all, in every direction you like, with no crust anywhere, forever and ever. Where is the middle of a thing that hasn't got an edge?
There isn't one. There can't be. You can't have a center without an edge to measure it in from. The 2 words need each other. Endless dough has no middle because there's no nearest the middle if there's no boundary for the middle to sit inside of.
No edge, so no center. And that, endless dough, swelling everywhere at once, with no crust and no middle anywhere in it, is a far truer picture of our universe than any loaf that ever came out of any oven. So when you ask me, where's the center it exploded from, you're really asking me which raisin sits nearest to a crust that was never there in the first place.
All right, that's slippery, but I'll grant it. No center because no edge. But now you've gone and robbed me of the edge as well, and the edge at least felt safe. Surely there's an edge. Somewhere out there, the very last, farthest galaxy, and then past it, nothing. A final one. A wall.
It feels like there has to be, doesn't it? Everything's got an edge. Every room's got its walls. But walk your own rule off the cliff and see where it lands you. Suppose you flew all the way out to that last galaxy, the one you're calling the edge. You land on it. You stand up and you look outward, past it. What do you see?
More galaxies, I'd have to guess. And, that's the trap, isn't it? Wherever I actually plant my feet, there's more of it strewn around me on all sides. So I never once arrive at the wall. I just keep finding more universe wherever I stand.
You never once arrive at the wall. Every spot has more universe laid out around it. The same way every raisin has more loaf around it, whichever raisin you pick. There's no galaxy anywhere standing lonely at a frontier with a great nothing yawning beyond it. The universe hasn't got an edge for the very same reason it hasn't got a center. An edge would be a place where the whole thing stops, and there is no place where it stops. It just carries on being the universe.
So no center, and now no edge. Which means, and I can feel exactly where you've been quietly herding me all night, no outside either. The third leg. The room the bomb goes off in.
No outside. And this is the deepest of the three, so let me set it down slowly with both hands. Your bomb flies out into a room, into space that was already sitting there, air and dark that existed beforehand, patiently waiting to be flown into. The blast fills up a space that was already on hand. So ask yourself the plain question. When the universe expands, what is it expanding into?
Into the space around it, the rim outside,
But space is the very thing that's doing the expanding. Cast your mind right back to your own words at the top of the stairs. It isn't galaxies flying through space, it's the space between them that's swelling. So space can't also be the room the swelling happens in. Space is the thing that's growing. There is no second, outer space standing ready for it to grow into. The growing is the whole of the story. There's nothing left over for it to grow inside of.
So there's no room. The expansion isn't stuff spreading out to fill up an empty hall. It's the hall itself getting bigger and bigger, with no larger hall anywhere outside it. I can almost hold it, honestly, and then the moment I relax, it slides straight off again.
It slides off everyone. It slid off Einstein's own contemporaries. It slides off me on a tired evening. And I can tell you exactly why it won't sit still in your head. Your whole life long, you've watched things expand into somewhere. A balloon into a room, smoke up into the open sky. You have never once seen the somewhere itself do the expanding. There's no picture from ordinary life to lean on, because in ordinary life, space just sits there, and things move about inside it.
So every single time I ask, but what's it expanding into? I'm quietly smuggling in a bigger room that simply isn't there. I keep wanting there to be an outside for it. I keep reaching for the walls.
You keep reaching for the walls because you're a creature who has only ever lived his whole life inside rooms. But the universe isn't in a room. The universe is not a thing that sits somewhere. The universe is the somewhere. There's no stage it's standing on. It is the stage, all of it, and the stage itself is what's growing.
All right, let me try to put the whole postcard back together out of the torn-up pieces. There's no center, because there's no edge for a center to be measured in from. There's no edge, because everywhere you go, there's simply more of it around you. And there's no outside, because space isn't sitting inside some bigger space. Space is the very thing that grows. 3 legs of the bomb, kicked clean out from under it.
All 3 legs, kicked clean out. And now that sentence you tossed off an hour ago, by pure accident. Hand it back to me, and hear what it actually weighs this time. The fireball wasn't in a place.
It was every place. It didn't happen at a spot. It happened at all the spots there are, at the very same moment. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion that went off somewhere inside the universe. It was something that happened to the whole universe, everywhere in it at once, all together.
Everywhere in it, all together. Not a bomb in the dark, the entire of space, dense and blazing, everywhere at once, and then that whole blazing everywhere, beginning quietly to swell. That is the picture. That is what belongs on the front of the box, if anyone ever bothered to draw it honestly.
So then, those galaxies flying apart, they aren't shrapnel. That's the last shred of the bomb I've been secretly hanging on to. I keep half picturing them as debris, bits of the blast still hurtling away from where it went off.
And that's the shred to let go of, because shrapnel flies through the air, away from a center, out into a room that was already there. Every last thing we've just spent an hour throwing out. The galaxies aren't tearing through space away from some ground zero. They're sitting more or less still, each in its own patch, while the space laid out between all of them swells. Not debris from a blast. Raisins in a loaf that has no middle and no crust.
And you're standing in the middle of it still, the thing you dangled in front of me in the very first breath tonight. That wasn't a poetry flourish, was it? You meant it flat and literal.
Flat as this table. You are standing in it. The stuff of you, the very spot you're sitting in, it's all the grown cold remains of that fireball, still swelling, still carrying you apart from every distant galaxy. There's no middle of it for you to stand in, so you stand in it the only way anyone can. Everywhere is the middle, and you're at your everywhere. The Big Bang isn't a place you could book a trip to. It's the place you already are, wound back to its beginning.
That genuinely rearranges something in my chest. My whole life I've pictured the Big Bang as an event miles off in the distance, right at the start of some long, dark corridor, and me down at the far end of it, squinting back. And you're telling me it's not down the corridor at all. It's the floor. It's the floor I'm standing on.
The floor you're standing on, wound back to when it blazed. And that lets me finally clear up the other thing the postcards adore saying. The very thing you might be about to say yourself. So the whole universe was once squeezed down into a tiny dot, smaller than a pea, smaller than a full stop at the end of a sentence. You've heard that one.
I've heard it 100 times if I've heard it once. The entire universe squashed to the size of a marble. It's practically the tagline of the whole subject. Are you honestly about to tell me that one's wrong too?
I'm about to tell you it's a half-truth, wearing an extremely confident hat. Here's the snag with it. If the universe has no edge, endless dough, remember, we just built that together, then it was always endless, even wound right the way back. And you cannot squeeze something endless down into a marble. There's no outside for the endless thing to shrink into. It's the very same snag as before, come round again.
But it was denser. You just spent the better part of an hour selling me denser and hotter, denser and hotter. How can it be denser if it isn't smaller? That doesn't add up. Denser has to mean squashed down.
Ah, and this is the loveliest little knot in the whole night to untie. So watch my fingers. Denser doesn't need smaller overall. It only needs closer together. Picture endless graph paper, grid lines running off forever in every direction, no edge anywhere, and a single raisin sitting at every crossing of the lines. Now halve every gap. Every raisin slides twice as close to each of its neighbors. Denser everywhere, twice as crowded at every single crossing on the paper.
And still endless. I didn't shrink the paper. There was no edge to pull inward, no corner to tug on. I just tightened the weave of it. Everywhere got closer together, but there's still infinitely much of it running off in every direction.
You tighten the weave, and you can keep right on tightening. Halve the gaps again, and again, and again, crowding every raisin arbitrarily close to every other one, denser and denser without any limit at all. And at no point in all that tightening did the endless paper ever become a marble. It stays endless the whole way down. It just gets fiercely, unimaginably crammed, everywhere, all at once.
So crammed is the honest word, not tiny. Everything was crammed far denser everywhere, rather than the whole show being shrunk down into a single dot you could hold between two fingers.
Crammed far denser, everywhere. That is the honest sentence, and it's worth learning by heart. Not, the universe was a dot, but everything in the universe was jammed unthinkably close to everything else, and it was that way at every point across a space with no edge. Denser everywhere, hotter everywhere. No dot required, and quite possibly no dot even possible.
You keep saying possibly and if it's endless and quite possibly. You're hedging on me. So let's have it straight. Do we actually know the universe is endless, or are you just refusing to plant a flag?
I'm hedging on purpose, and you should trust me more for it, not less. So here's the honest state of the ground. We can only ever see out so far. There's a bubble of universe around us that light has had the time to cross since the very beginning. Inside that bubble, we can look and measure and check. But past the edge of the bubble, we simply can't see a thing yet, because the light from out there hasn't had time to reach us.
Our own little pocket, then? The part of it all we can actually get the news from.
Our own pocket, the observable universe, is the proper name for it. And here's the humbling bit. Everything we can see, our whole visible pocket, was indeed crammed down astonishingly small in the deep past. That part is true, and it's marvel enough. But the whole universe, all of it, including the endless dark that lies out past the edge of our little pocket, we honestly do not know whether that's finite or whether it runs on forever. It may be unthinkably vast. It may have no size at all.
So when the tagline chirps, "The whole universe was the size of a grape," it's quietly swapping the whole universe out for our own little visible pocket, and just hoping I won't catch it doing the swap.
That is exactly the swap, and now you'll never unsee it. Our pocket, crammed small, that's true, and it's astonishing all by itself. But the whole of everything, crammed to a dot, that is a claim nobody alive is entitled to make, because nobody knows how big the whole of everything actually is. So we say the careful thing instead. Everywhere was denser, everywhere was hotter, and we leave the size of everywhere as the wide-open question it honestly still is.
I'll say this. I like your version a good deal better than the tagline. It's stranger, but it isn't lying to me. Denser everywhere beats a marble in a void hands down, because the marble in a void quietly smuggles the empty void straight back in through the door we just bolted.
It does exactly that. The marble drags the empty room back in through the side door, the very room we spent all night heaving out the front. No marble, no void, no room. Just everywhere, crammed and blazing, and then beginning to swell. So hold on to that, tight, because now we've properly earned the hardest and the most honest turn of the whole night.
The hardest turn. All right, brace me for it then.
We've been winding the reel back so gaily all night. Hotter, denser, hotter, denser. As though we could just keep cranking the handle round forever and sail smoothly all the way down to the very first instant. And I need to tell you now where the handle stops turning.
There's a place it actually stops. I thought the whole trick of it was that the one law runs backward as far and as freely as you like.
The one law runs backward astonishingly far, far, far past the fireball, back to when the whole universe was younger than a single drawn breath, hotter and denser than anything you and I have any words to rehearse. The machinery holds up staggeringly well, almost the entire way down. Almost. And then, right at the very first instant, it breaks in your hands.
Breaks how exactly? The equations catch fire. What does it even look like when a law of physics gives out from under you?
It looks like the equations handing you back nonsense. Wind them right down to that first instant, and they try to tell you the density is infinite. Everything, crammed into no room whatsoever, hot beyond any meaning the word hot has ever carried. And infinite isn't an answer to anything. It's the sound a theory makes when it's been shoved clean past its own edge, the needle slamming off the end of the dial, the map running right off the paper and onto the bare table.
So it's not that the equations are calmly telling us, here's the first instant, and it happened to be infinite. It's that they're telling us, we don't work here anymore. You've walked us off the end of where we're any good.
That's exactly it. And it's a difference that matters more than almost anything else tonight. The infinite isn't a description of the beginning, it's a signpost. And the signpost reads, the theory you rode in on ends at this line, and something else, something you don't yet have in your hands, takes over past it. Einstein's own machinery, honest right to the last inch, points straight at the one spot where it stops being able to speak, and then it falls silent.
So what actually happened at that first instant? The real one. The instant everybody in the world means when they say the words, the Big Bang.
We don't know. And I want to say that to you plainly, flatly, without dressing it up in anything, because it's one of the most honest sentences this whole science owns. The genuine first moment, the instant itself, the starting line, is behind a wall we cannot yet see over. We can describe the universe from a sliver of a moment after the beginning onward, blazing, dense, swelling, all of it solid. The beginning itself? No, not yet. Perhaps not ever.
Just so I've got the exact shape of the honesty here, you can tell me with real confidence that the universe was a fireball, a sliver of an instant after it began. But you cannot tell me a thing about the sliver before that, the actual starting line itself.
I can walk you back breathtakingly close to the starting line. Far, far closer than you'd ever believe a person could get. And then there's one last short step that I cannot take, and neither can anyone else, yet. Not out of laziness, and not for want of trying, but because the tools we've built go quiet right at that line. That last step needs a physics we simply haven't finished building.
And I already know what I want to ask next, and I've a strong suspicion you're going to swat it clean out of the air. What came before? Before the beginning?
I'm not going to swat it, but I am going to hand it straight back to you, heavier than you threw it. What came before quietly assumes there was a before. Some stretch of time already sitting there, waiting patiently, with the beginning happening partway along it, like a bell going off in an afternoon that was already underway. But time itself may be part of what began. And if time started right there, at that line,
then before has got nothing left to point at. Asking what came before the beginning would be like asking what's north of the North Pole. You can walk north and north and north, and then you're standing right on the top of the world, and there simply is no more north to walk. The question hasn't been answered. It's just run clean out of ground to stand on.
What's north of the North Pole? That is as good as anyone has ever put it. The question sounds perfectly, flawlessly sensible, right up until the moment you notice it's asking you to point in a direction that isn't there to be pointed in. Before the beginning may be exactly that kind of sentence, grammatically tidy and aimed at nothing whatsoever. Maybe. And I keep saying may because the plain truth is we don't know that for certain either.
You really won't give me a single inch on this one, will you? Not one.
Not an inch I haven't honestly earned, and that restraint is the whole point. I could spin you a tale about that first instant right now and send you up to bed satisfied. And there are ideas, bold, serious, beautiful ideas about that first flicker of time and about what may have driven it. But they're the far frontier of this whole course, the very last country we'll stand in at the end, and I won't smuggle a guess up the stairs tonight dressed as a settled fact.
So we park it. There's a room right at the end of the corridor with the first instant chalked on the door, and we don't turn the handle on it tonight.
We don't turn the handle tonight. but I promise you that we walk right up and knock on that door before this whole course is finished. 2 doors, really. One about that very first flicker of time and what it may have done to shape everything after. And another one, right at the very end, about the whole honest ledger of everything we've been forced to leave sitting in the dark. Tonight, we only mark the 2 doors on the map and keep our hands clean of guessing.
You know what's strange to me? I came into tonight braced to find this part frustrating. The great big "we don't know" planted right at the climax of it all. And instead it's the part I trust the very most. You wound the entire universe back to a blazing everywhere, and then you stopped, dead, exactly where the road stopped, and you told me so to my face instead of paving over the gap.
That's the register this whole science sings in, once you've tuned your ear to catch it. Enormous, well-earned confidence about the story from a sliver of a moment after the beginning onward. The fireball, the swelling, the cooling, all of it, as solid as anything we know about anything. And then a clean, unembarrassed silence about the very first instant and the before. The confidence and the silence sitting side by side, and neither one of them the least bit ashamed of the other.
The confidence and the silence. All right, so let me go and stand right where the road does stop and turn round and look hard at what we actually do have in our hands. We wound the whole universe backward, and we found… what, exactly? Say it for me in one honest breath.
In one breath. We found that the universe has a history, that it was once, everywhere at once, unimaginably hot and dense, a fireball with no center, no edge, no outside, and that it has been swelling and cooling ever since, all the way down into the calm, cold room we're sitting in tonight. And that isn't a myth. It isn't a guess. It's what falls out when you read the past of the same law that runs the present. And you have the nerve to run it backward.
And you've been so careful all night to keep saying the fireball's gone, cooled, thinned, swelled itself away into cold, quiet air and cold, quiet space. So it's over then. The fire went out a long, long time ago.
Ah, now that's the one place tonight where I've been quietly letting you believe something I'm about to take right back off you. The fire didn't go out. Not really. Not entirely.
What do you mean it didn't go out? You've spent the whole of the last hour petition telling me everything cooled, everything thinned, everything calmed down into the room I'm sitting in.
Everything cooled. But cooling isn't the same thing as vanishing. Think for a second about what a fireball actually does as it cools. Early on, it's so ferociously hot that it's a blinding fog. That plasma soup, so thick and so churning with loose electrons that light can't get across it at all. Light is forever bouncing, snared, trapped, getting precisely nowhere. The whole universe is glowing and opaque at once, a bit like being deep inside a cloud that's lit from within, bright and blind at the same time.
A universe you couldn't see across if you tried. Fog, with the light left on inside it, bright and blind all together.
Fog with the light left on. And then it cools just a little further. A few 100,000 years of swelling and cooling, and it crosses a line. It gets just cool enough at last that the loose flying bits can finally settle down and clasp together into calm, whole, well-behaved atoms. The fog thins, the soup clears, and all that trapped light, for the very first time in the entire history of everything there is set free to fly.
Set free to fly. And once it's flying, it just keeps flying, doesn't it? There's nothing left in the cleared-out universe to stop it or snag it anymore.
Nothing left anywhere to stop it. It's been flying ever since, without a pause, across every stretch of swelling space for billions of years, stretching and reddening and cooling the whole long way, in exactly the way the galaxy's light did in your loaf. And here's the thing I've been quietly saving all night for the very end. The thing that ought, if I've told it right, to raise the hair clean up off your arms.
Go on then, raise it.
That light is still arriving, right now, tonight, this minute. The glow that was let loose the instant the fireball cleared, stretched by all those eons from a blinding blaze down to the faintest whisper, is washing over the earth as we sit here, coming at us from every direction of the sky at once. The fireball didn't vanish off into the past. Its light is still here. You are, quite literally, bathed in the cooled-down glow of the Big Bang, this very second as I say the words.
From every direction at once, so it isn't off in one spot I could aim a telescope at. Well, of course it isn't. We spent the whole night on precisely that. There is no one spot. It's everywhere. It comes at me from every side, because the fireball was every side.
Because the fireball was everywhere, its afterglow arrives from everywhere. The oldest light there is anywhere, older than every star, older than every galaxy, set loose before there was so much as a single atom's worth of anything you'd call a thing. And it is falling on us tonight. Do you remember, right back at the very start of all this, weeks ago now, the idea that to look far out into space is really to look far back into time?
The night sky as a time machine. The farther out you look, the deeper into the past you're seeing. Every star seen as it once was, never as it is right now. That was the very first thing that ever unsettled me.
Well, this faint glow is the deepest that whole idea can ever possibly reach. Look out at this whisper of light coming at you from all around, and you're not seeing a star as it once was. You're seeing the fireball as it once was, the entire young universe caught at the very instant it first turned clear. It is the farthest back that any eye or any instrument we will ever build can possibly see. A wall of light standing at the edge of the whole visible past.
The farthest back that anything at all can ever see, so past that glow deeper than it.
Past that glow is the fog. The part that was still opaque, still churning, that never once got the chance to let its light go free. You can't see through it, no more than you could ever see the middle of a thick cloud from the outside of it. That glow is the curtain across the past. It's the oldest thing there is anywhere to look at, and it is the closest thing to a baby photograph that the universe is ever going to hand us.
A baby photo of the universe, of everything there is, taken at the very moment it first turned clear enough to be photographed at all.
A baby photo of everything. And the truly astonishing part, the part I still can't quite get over, is that we have it. We've caught that light. We've gathered it in and laid it out flat and looked hard at it. And it turns out to be very nearly the most important picture ever taken by anyone of anything, for reasons we've barely so much as brushed against tonight.
Now that's not fair, and you know it isn't. You can't say very nearly the most important picture ever taken, and then reach for your coat and your hat. What's in it? What does a genuine baby photo of the whole universe actually show a person?
It shows something that flat took my breath away the first time I properly understood it. And I'm not about to spoil it, standing here in the doorway, with one arm in my coat. But I'll hand you the shape of the next night at least. That ancient glow arrives astonishingly smooth, very nearly identical to a whisker from every direction you care to turn and face.
Smooth, the same all over, whichever way you look. That sounds tidy, restful even. A nice, even, uneventful sort of photograph.
Almost the same. Almost. Because riven right through all that smoothness are the very faintest ripples, patches just a hair warmer, just a hair cooler than the rest of it. And those tiny ripples, that barely there unevenness threaded through the oldest light there is, are the seeds. Every galaxy, every star, the loaf, you, me, all of it grew, over the ages, out of exactly those.
Hold on. You're telling me the entire structure of everything, all the galaxies, the whole lit-up, crowded sky, was already written, faintly, into a single photograph that was taken back when the universe was only a few 100,000 years old.
Written faintly into the oldest light. Yes, every bit of it already sketched in, waiting. But that is the whole of the next night's proper work, and I mean to do it justice, not gabble it in a doorway. Tonight was about the one big thing, winding the reel all the way back to the fireball and getting ourselves honest about what it was and about everything it wasn't.
Then let me try to carry it up the stairs the way you had me carry the last one, and we'll see in the morning whether it comes up whole. We ran the whole universe backward, on the one same law that runs it forward, and everything came crowding in and got denser and got hotter, until all of space, everywhere, no center, no edge, no outside, was one single blazing fireball. Not a bomb going off in the dark, a blaze that was all the dark there was.
A blaze that was all there was. Go on, you're doing this beautifully.
And we wound it back as far as the law would carry us, right up to a hair's breadth from the very first instant. And then we stopped, honestly, at the wall. And we admitted, out loud, that we don't know the first moment itself, or even whether before it means a single thing. And through all of that, the fireball never actually died. Its light is still flying, still arriving, tonight. From every side at once, the oldest glow there is anywhere.
The oldest glow there is. Still landing on you, softly, as you climb those stairs to bed.
And that's the bit I'll lie awake turning over. Not that there was a fireball at the start of everything. That, honestly, I can just about manage now. It's that I'm still sitting in its light. That the beginning of the whole universe is a photograph, and it's still being delivered tonight, and it's landing quietly on the roof over my head this very minute, while I take myself up to bed.
Landing on the roof, on the fields, on the far side of the moon, on all of it, everywhere, all the time. The whole sky quietly aglow with the memory of the fire, if only you've the eyes to catch it. And next time, we'll go and catch it. We'll take that baby photo down off the wall, the two of us, and read out loud what's actually written into it.
Then I'll go up with the light still coming down. No bomb, no center, no outside, just everywhere. Once blazing, now cooled to a whisper I've swum in all my life and never knew. I came down tonight certain the Big Bang was the farthest thing there is, off at the start of a long corridor. And I'm going up knowing it's the nearest thing there is, the floor, the air, the old light on the roof. Show me the baby photo next time. I'll bring my eyes. Good night.